Nobody tells you this, but finding an apartment in Japan as a foreigner is not just about money. You can get rejected even if you can afford it. Hello, my name is Openda Naisbarasa. I'm an English teacher in Japan and I've been here for the last 2 years. Not all apartments in Japan accept foreigners. Yeah, one of the most common phrases you'll encounter is no foreigners allowed. And sometimes you need up to 4 to 6 months worth of rent already at your disposal. And sometimes the listings are not even available. You'll encounter many hidden costs like key money and sometimes charges you don't even understand and they can't explain, right? I made so many mistakes and I was surprised the first time I started looking for an apartment. The first apartment I ever lived in Japan was contracted by my company, so I really never had to hustle. However, late last year, probably around July, I moved into this apartment, a 3DK apartment, and I had to find the apartment myself. Despite having the easiest time, because the moment I went looking for an apartment, I saw one that I liked online, went and contacted the realtor, went to their office, and on that same day I viewed the apartment and I signed for it literally within 24 hours. But before signing for this apartment, I reached out to several realtors and all of them said no foreigners allowed. So let's start with the documents that you need. When it comes to finding an apartment in Japan as a foreigner, they really just need to verify that one, you're staying here long term, you have a stable job, you can afford the apartment to pay every month. So that means you need to show proof of income and probably just demonstrate that, hey, you're in Japan legally. So what do you need? You need your residence card. That's the most important thing because it shows what visa you're on, you're in Japan for how long, and whether they can trust you. And just in general to identify who you are. Sometimes you need to take your passport with you, but as long as you have the residence card, it's okay. If you're just getting into Japan, I know this is the most difficult part, but try and have a bank account and a phone number ready. You'll need a guarantor. So this is easy because for me, I didn't need to find a guarantor. However, many real estate companies do have guarantor companies that they can link you up to. So usually once you go to their office, you see an apartment that they like, they can send your details to the guarantor company and the guarantor company will go over them and decide whether to accept you or not. The downside to this is you have to pay the guarantor fees. So it's pretty much expensive, but we do have listings that say no guarantor needed. Sometimes if you don't want to go that route, you can have a Japanese person be your guarantor, but it's not easy because it's one of those important processes that it will take you a bit of time to convince a Japanese person, or you just need to have like a very, very, very close Japanese friend. The next thing that you need is an emergency contact, and unfortunately they do have to be Japanese. In my case, I use my employers and they signed up to be my emergency contact. You need their address and their contact information. The next important thing that you need is a hanko. A hanko is basically a seal or a stamp that Japanese people use instead of manually signing how we do it in Western countries. Here you actually need a seal with your name in Japanese. I didn't have this by the time I went to do my paperwork. However, it is very, very important because when you have to set up your bank account for your rent deductions, they need the seal in order to submit to the bank. And because at that time I didn't have one, I signed manually. For 7 months, my rent couldn't be deducted because it failed at every point. And the banks in Japan really never give you a reason. They will just the check or whatever, the request will always not go through and they will never tell you the reason. So the moment I got my seal and had it registered at the bank, because that's another thing, if you get a seal, make sure it is registered under your name or account by your bank, so that once you set up the payment requests through the realtor or the guarantor company, it can actually go through. There's so many places you can get a hanko made, and it's usually between probably 3,000 to 7,000 yen, depending on how long your name is, the shape and everything. And many foreign names tend to be long, so expect to pay a lot more. Obviously, the next thing that you need is money. I would recommend having somewhere between 200,000 to 350,000 yen just for the first deposit or to secure your apartment. And this does not include like furnishing the apartment. It's just the upfront fees that are needed for you to move into the apartment. It could go higher than that, so always be prepared, but having 200 to 350,000 allows you to have a good place to start. Let's start with the easiest options of finding accommodation in Japan. If you're moving here just for a short time, maybe 6 months, 1 year traveling, you might want to consider shared housing options because they come fully furnished. You don't have to go through the process of getting a guarantor, Japanese emergency person, and all those things. And here are websites that you can use. Number one, Sakura. Sakura is very, very, very popular. You can check out their website. I will leave the links in the description, and I will leave a picture of the logo on the screen. The next one is Oak House. This is also a very, very popular option for short-term travelers or people who don't plan on staying here long-term. The last one is Borderless House. Yeah, so find all the links in the description box. When it comes to shared housing, some housing has like girls only, some are mixed, so depending on your preference, but you only get your separate rooms, but you'll have like shared bathrooms and toilets, shared living or common areas. So just keep in mind, if you value privacy, it might not be the best fit for you, but if you don't mind, I guess that's fine. The next option is for those people who are looking to settle into their own personal apartments. I think we all are familiar with GaijinPot. It's a popular website for foreigners. Gaijin means foreigner in Japanese. And they do have like job listings, and they also do have apartments and every other thing that you might imagine and want to navigate as a foreigner. You might find them there. GaijinPot is very foreigner friendly. You'll probably get English support, and you'll probably get assistance when it comes to setting up your apartment. The next one is Leo Palace. This is very common among ALTs because they come fully furnished and they're cheaper. They're just a little bit compact studio apartments, not really ideal if you want enough space or you prefer to curate your own spaces. It just feels like things have been fixed in a room here and there to help you survive. But if you don't mind that, and I would actually recommend people who are just coming into Japan for the first time and they don't want to go through the hassle of finding an apartment, Leo Palace is the best place to start. Now let's move to the veterans websites. Yeah, so you've been in Japan and you want to change apartments, or you'll be here for a while and you just want to find a place that is comfortable for you. This is a personal favorite. I found my current apartment through SUUMO. Now, SUUMO is very popular in Japan. However, the website is not in English, it's in Japanese. The good news is you can translate the website with your browser, and once you do that, go on the website and put in your preferred location, if it's a city, town, train station. You have that option, and then you can put in your preferences. You want a 1-bedroom apartment, 2LDK, 3DK, and you can also set a price range, and sometimes you can even set like how many minutes walk from the apartment to the train station. After you do that, you will obviously find apartments you can choose from. Once you find one, there's an inquiry button on the website. It's usually like orange. It says email or inquiry. Just tap that button and then it's going to send automated emails to realtors who posted those apartments that you're interested in. Once the realtors find the automated messages, they're going to now reach out to you personally. They're going to ask questions like, where are you from? Are you a foreigner? What are you looking for? If that specific apartment that you liked is not available for foreigners, they will definitely tell you no foreigners allowed. For apartments that do allow foreigners, you'll notice that the realtors try to get to know more about you and your nationality. So they would ask like, where are you from? Can you speak Japanese? All that. And I personally would recommend having like an automated email. You can come up with an email introducing yourself and say, hey, my name is so and so, I'm from Kenya or I'm from the UK. I'm looking for an apartment with these specifications and this is my price range. I don't speak Japanese, but we can use a translator. So you're giving them the option of, I don't speak Japanese, but I am willing to come with somebody to help me translate, or I can use an app to translate, whether it's Google Translate or whatever. It makes their work pretty easy, I would say. Now, SUUMO is very good. I would say SUUMO has very, very, very many options. Think of everything old, new, modern, expensive. If you want to buy a house, you can always find a good option on SUUMO. My best recommendation would be, once you find a realtor that is willing to help you, or they have the option of accepting foreigners. Go to their office. Sometimes the realtors do have like many options that are not listed on the websites, just to prevent competition or whatever. So they might be able to show you more options as long as you give them what they want, and they're going to take you around. Now in Japan, they do have cars, so they will take you to each and every apartment that you like. The next website would be Chintai. I don't have enough experience with this, but they also do have a lot of options when it comes to housing. As usual, just send the automated email to the houses that you like, and then the realtors will decide whether they can take you in or not. We do have Wagaya Japan. That is also a very popular website, and you can find just as many options. For also another option that I came about, I think last year, it's called Village Houses. However, they're not available all over Japan, but they do have pretty good options and usually at an affordable price. So if you do live in a city where a village house is available, you can also check them out. They're foreigner friendly. Let's talk about the costs involved, because this is where my brain chemistry was literally altered. Because what do you mean I'm paying all this much to just get into an apartment, But the most common one is deposit. I think this is also common back in Western countries. The deposit is usually an equivalent of your rent. So if your rent is 70,000 yen, your deposit will most likely be also 70,000 yen. This amount of money accounts for damages within the apartment when you move out. The next one is key money. Basically, key money is also an equivalent amount of your rent. And this money is like a thank you gift to the landlord to say, hey, thank you for giving me your apartment. Here is 70,000 yen. Yeah, that is ridiculous to me. But I did do a bit of research why that's the case, and it has something to do with World War II or something. Yeah, it just has something to do with that. So it's very historical. So that's another amount of money that just baffled me. If you're working with a real estate agent or a realtor, in general, expect to pay an agency fee. In my case, I paid around 60,000 yen. I'm pretty sure that could be like relatively the same, because I went to 2 real estate offices and they had pretty much the same amount of 60,000 yen, but this could change depending on the city, prefecture, all of that type of housing. So expect to pay around, that's just a rough estimate, but I paid 60,000 yen. The last expense would be your first month's rent. So yeah, in total, you can do the math and see how much you can expect to pay. However, it can go higher because we do have things like fire insurance that sometimes you pay with your first month's rent or before. There's also the guarantor fees that could be in there. I don't remember how much I paid, but the guarantor fees should be paid yearly and not monthly. So once you move in, you'll pay, and once you renew your contract, I guess, you also pay. And most housing contracts in Japan are like 2 years. If you break the contract before a year, I think there's a penalty fee, usually the same amount of money as your rent. However, after 1 year, you can move out, but before a year elapses, there could be a few charges. Things to look out for. This frustrated me because you'd find a nice apartment online, but when you go to see it in person, it doesn't look exactly as the pictures online. Because what happens is Japanese houses are very small. In general, the rooms are small, tiny, compact. So when the realtors take pictures of the houses, they tend to use the wide lens, which can exaggerate how big the rooms look. So you think, oh my God, this is such a steal. It's cheap, it's huge, it's spacious, the lighting is great. But there was editing involved and they use the wide lens. So you go there and you're like, what? So don't make the mistake of just picking an apartment through photos. Make sure you go and see it in person. The next thing to be cautious of would be noise. Noise is a serious offense in Japan, and I'm telling you, your neighbor will definitely call the police on you if you make noise for them. It's that serious. So if you know you're the kind of person that plays an instrument, a guitar, a piano, there are very, very many apartments in Japan that do not allow instruments. So you have to be cautious of that. When you talk to your realtor, make sure you tell them, hey, does this apartment allow for instruments. Some will allow, but you'll have to pay for insulation, you know, to make sure that it's not so noisy. And others, especially if you live upstairs, you'll probably make noise for your downstairs neighbor. You'll have to insulate the floors and the walls and everything. Also check if the apartment is pet friendly and child friendly, because there are some apartments that don't allow babies or kids. When it comes to distance, obviously a 10-minute walk from the train station is common. That's very normal. 5 minute, that's premium. However, from my experience, the further away you are from the train station, the cheaper the apartment. The closer you are, the more expensive the apartment is. Also remember that some photos are put on the website to just bait you to visit. So don't just fall for any pictures that you see. They're just there to trap you, you know. They attract you so that you can go and visit more houses. So always be cautious. Even during the signing papers, if you go to see apartments, some realtors will try to use the agency language, like, hey, you know, 3 other people applied to see this apartment, so you better hurry up. But the truth is they're just trying to get you to sign the contract. So don't get carried away by that. Just make sure before you sign any papers, before you settle, that you're actually happy with your apartment. Common mistakes that many foreigners make is underestimating the initial cost of the apartment. Yeah, don't underestimate it. It could go higher. I would say if you have at least 500,000 yen, it puts you at a better position. Some landlords would ask for 1 month's rent, some would ask for more than 1 month's rent. You never know. Another mistake would be not using an agent. I think an agent is the best way. They can help you with all the paperwork and everything, and you'll be assured of good service. And you can always email them in case of anything related to the apartment. Another mistake would be choosing an apartment based off of pictures only. Like I said, don't make that mistake. You might be disappointed. I hope this video was helpful for you. If you live in Japan, let me know what challenges you experienced when it comes to finding an apartment in the comment section. Please like and subscribe to the channel. We're on the road to 3,000 subscribers. That is all from me today. See you again next time. Bye.